All right. So hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Davon Reeves. I am the CEO and founder of Vester, which is a crowdfunding platform for commercial real estate, and the Von Group, which is my hotel ownership group and consulting firm. And I put together this series for women, real estate, and finance, just combining my two favorite things. And at first, I was actually going to start it off with one webinar, and I was like, eh. Then I was like, it's too many like magnificent ladies that I think that you all should hear from. And I always reach out to my girl Miranda. I think some of you all even invested with her. Oh, look at Uno. Is that Uno that just jumped? Hey, Uno. Clearly Miranda and I are really good friends. So I know the dog. But yeah, so I wanted to come up with this series just more so just from an educational standpoint. I want more women in real estate, specifically in commercial real estate. Black women, there's not a lot of us in the space at all. And commercial real estate is what really rules the world because home ownership is great. I love it. I think we all should definitely really aspire to that. But the deal making, the power really comes from owning land and owning buildings and owning the block, right? And so we can really, have those tough conversations with people and really start gaining respect, in my opinion, when you step into this commercial real estate space. So that's why I put together this series, because I want more people to, get into this space and learn more about it. So Miranda, she mentioned Jaymi Brooks would be a great addition to the conversation. And I was so happy when Jaymi said yes. I was like, yay! And so thank you, Miranda, for the recommendation. And Jaymi reminded me that we met, Miranda, when you spoke at the what was it, the realtor, the commercial, what was it, in Sandy
Yeah, it was
Springs,
like the commercial board.
the commercial
Yes.
board. And
Yeah.
Miranda, this is what happened, Jaymi. Miranda was like, oh yeah, you're coming to hear me speak. No, 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 no. I take that back. It was a surprise. Miranda didn't know I was coming to speak. That's what it was. She didn't
That's
know I was.
right.
It was a
I think
surprise.
I think Corey invited you, right? Or did
Corey
Corey?
invited me, but
Yeah.
but this is what happened. She put me on the spot to speak. That's what happened. She put me on the spot. She was like, "Well,
Yeah,
since you're here,
you're not gonna be in the same room as me and be in the audience. That's not gonna happen.
yeah." So,
Yeah.
so, and then Miranda, funny story on how we met, you guys. So I don't know, was it 2021? I went viral, whatever.
I
I was
think
in
it's 21, yeah.
Yeah, I went viral, and a lot of people. That's probably how y'all seen me on a newspaper somewhere. And so I was in Black Enterprise, and people were contacting Miranda and was like, "Girl, you ain't tell me you bought a hotel." And so then we met. So we met on Clubhouse, you guys. We
Yeah.
met literally on Clubhouse, and she started talking about Clark, and I was like, "My mom went to Clark." And then she just started talking. I was like, "Oh, I like her." So I slid in her DM, her private message. I was like, "Girl, we need to have lunch." We had lunch. You guys, we've been inseparable ever since. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's just the power of just connecting and, and working with people, that's in this space that, I can call and bounce ideas and, you know, cry on and be stressing on, and Miranda be like, "Girl, you got it." So it's just good. It's nothing like that sisterhood, you guys. So that's why I
Yeah.
really just wanted this series to be for us. Finding women who look like us, who can help us get into this space. So I'm
Yeah.
in Jaymi. So Jaymi Brooks, she's an associate with T. Dallas Smith and Company, which is probably the largest black owned commercial real estate. I'm just gonna say the, if there is. I don't really know any other, so I would just say the with T. Dallas.
Yes, it is the largest.
Yeah, look,
The largest, yes.
one of the largest brokerage firm or commercial real estate firm that's owned by a Black person. And so she's a trusted advisor who represents tenants and buyers in the traditional office and medical office sector. All right. So she's developed a passion for real estate after spending ample time in downtown St. Louis, walking and admiring the architecture of the buildings she observed daily. So in 2012, she started her career in residential property management, handling HUD or HUD-based housing opportunities in the downtown St. Louis submarket. And then shortly after her relocation back to St. Louis in 2015. And so Jaymi furthered her commercial real estate career with Cushman and Wakefield as a TQC intern while completing her undergraduate degree at the University of Missouri St. Louis in St. Louis, Missouri. So that's just a short bio about her. So just to let you know that she's definitely been in this space. A little bit more about her. Jaymi is a part of the award-winning team at TDS Spade SRE, helping to shape the Atlanta community with an impactful purpose as the senior brokerage partner. And with T. Dallas Smith and Company, she prides herself as a go-to medical representative, understanding that community growth starts with a healthy foundation. So I just said a lot so people can know what you're working with. But Jaymi, please introduce yourself and let us know who you are.
Okay, well, thank you, Devon. It was a pleasure. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you for thinking about me, Miranda. You know, like you said, there aren't too many African American women in these spaces, so to be thought of is definitely an honor and a privilege. So I appreciate you for that. I am originally from East St. Louis, Illinois. If you know where that's at, that's right across the bridge from St. Louis, Missouri. It is not to get confused with the two. But where I'm from, it's not the stigma that people grow up and become greatness. We have one-offs, we have Miles Davis, we have JJK. But you know, what happens outside of athleticism? What happens outside of the music? So originally from East St. Louis, got my degree from the University of Missouri St. Louis in 2016. And then I went on to do residential property management after interning with Cushman and Wakefield for a year. I did that across several states and cities. So imagine packing up your life and living in 6 different cities in a matter of 18 months. It can get a little daunting, a little tiring, but I had the privilege to then move over and start my commercial career all over again with CBRE, going into being a brokerage assistant. So managing the personalities and portfolios and clients of 11 different brokers, all doing 11 different types of commercial real estate. So I've had the privilege to learn so much working with CBRE to the point where I knew that I didn't want to be the broker's assistant anymore, but I needed to be the broker. And in order for me to be the broker, I needed to know the know who to know, and also be able to walk the walk as I'm talking the talk. So just studying from those 11 different brokers that I was working with on a daily basis gave me a different type of avenue of drive. Number one, seeing and working with top producers. Shout out to ACBR $1 Million Club. They just had that. The average broker deal on that top producer list averaged about $45 million in revenue. So that's just a little bit of a number for you to keep in mind of me working with 11 top producers within a short amount of time and how much money I was helping them and how much revenue I was helping them produce. I need to be the broker. And so I did that for about 3.5 years before getting a referral to go over to DT Spade. They were looking for new, young, and upcoming brokers to help with their training program and be a part of that. So I was able to be a part of, like Devon said, an award-winning team. We were able to win the Alvin B. Cates Award with the Atlanta Commercial Board of Realtors, doing work with Grady Hospital and their expansion of clinics throughout the city of Atlanta due to the closing of the AMC hospital here with Wellstar. And so because of that, a lot of attention was put on what's going to happen with health, what is going to happen, especially in the middle of COVID. All of this is happening in the midst of COVID. How are people going to survive with some of the basic needs that they need? and they're not going to be able to get just because offices are closed, the city is shut down, and now you have a major hospital that's shut down as well. So after spending about 2 years at DT Spade, I was graciously asked to come to T. Dallas Smith and Company, and I have been here now for almost 2 years in November. Also specializing in medical representation, still helping all of our medical professionals and large hospital systems, medical systems, and medical adjacent organizations with their space needs within commercial real estate.
Girl, love it. Pop that collar. Hey, twin Miranda. Look, we both got ponytails today. All right, let the world know who you are.
Okay, hey everybody. Before I even start, I want to just say I'm so proud of Jaymi. You are just growing leaps and bounds since I met you. Every time I talk to her, she's just higher and higher and higher. So that is so awesome. Davon, thank you for having me. I think your platform is amazing. So I'm grateful to be able to be here and support. I'm mad that we both wearing our glasses and our buns because when I looked on, I was like, wait, is that me? No, that's her. Anyway, we usually try to switch it up, but we got caught up today. Anyway, hey, everybody. I do see some familiar faces, some people invested in my deal. Hey, family. It's good to see you in here. My background, I did start at CBRE, very similar to Jaymi. It's a great platform. I started there in the early 2000s as a junior broker at first on the retail team. And by the time I left CBRE, I was running their retail tenant rep group. And I represented tenants such as Target and Gap. At the time, it was Washington Mutual Bank, which then ended up being Chase Bank. I did over 80 locations for them. So I had a lot of experience in retail tenant representation, which means I would represent large retail corporate groups in finding leases, finding land, the whole deal. In 2008, some of y'all are old enough to remember the real estate bust of 2008. I actually stayed at CBRE until 2012, but when the real estate bust started, I started exploring other avenues. So I jumped into entrepreneurship. My husband and I at the time started a company, and we grew that company from a kitchen recipe to $1 million a year in sales in about 3 years. So in order to do that, we used avenues like Shark Tank. We created a #1 selling product on QVC. We sold a lot of product on Good Morning America. So it was a really super fun ride. I sold out of that company back in 2021 and jumped back into real estate, but this time from the investment and development side. And so I took my proceeds and raised some money with some investors and purchased about 4 acres at the corner of State Route 1 and Devil's Foot in Kingstown, Rhode Island, to start my business development project. That project is going well, very well, actually. So we purchased the project for $2.6 million. I raised an additional $1 million for improvements, which we are doing sewer and some other infrastructure things on the project. The people who invested with me actually invested in one aspect of that project, which is a car wash. So the project is broken down into 3 parcels. So essentially what we did is a land development. We purchased the 4 acres. We've got 1.4 acres on the corner, 1 acre in the middle, and then there's 1.5 acres on the end. On the end, we're doing 1.5 acres for a car wash. The middle, we are working with McDonald's on a 20-year ground lease. And the furthest to the end will be a Taco Bell anchored strip center. So development deals do take some time. So we are working through that process. While I am a developer, I also have other projects because, as I said, takes a long time to actually, while it is super, super lucrative, it could take, anywhere from 2 to 3 years to do ground up development. So I also do some consulting. I consult two major developers right now. One is a Black-owned developer by the name of the Benoit Group. I don't know if anybody in Atlanta is familiar with them. They do multifamily, mixed use, senior housing. They are very active with the city of Atlanta. The project that I work on with them specifically is a project called Inglewood, which is located in Southeast Atlanta, and I help them program their retail. The other client that I have is a client called Vantage, and they've got 6 developments around Atlanta. It is my job to handle the development side. So I help them get permits, I help them acquire land. I help with the in-house engineers, the in-house architects, all of our permitting, infrastructure, project management. It is a small company, so I do a lot. So as a developer, it's been twofold for me. One is just getting more hours in, right? So for the projects that I do myself with my own money and with the money of my investors, by consulting other developers, I just get better and better and find better ways to do things and pick up more subs and more contractors to help. So my journey has been a little different. Like I have a lot of different things that have brought me to this place, from entrepreneurship. I've owned restaurants, I've had products, I've been a real estate broker. And now I am doing investment and development.
Wow, I love it. So y'all explained how you got into commercial real estate. Now, can you explain why did you get into it, right? Because a lot of people typically start off in residential and they stay in residential. So what made you decide to get into commercial real estate? Jaymi, you want to go first?
Sure. So I did start off in a semi-residential situation in real estate, being in apartments and leasing those. But to be honest, I got into apartment leasing because I wanted to move out of my mom's house, and I was a full-time student, and they were offering partial housing if you worked in the leasing office. So I stumbled into real estate just because I wanted to be an independent woman. And I probably shouldn't have. But being able to see some of just how real estate flowed, especially in St. Louis. If anyone's familiar with how downtown St. Louis is set up, it is a historic city. So a lot of the buildings and a lot of the retail are not as pretty as we see it here in Atlanta. So there's a lot of vacancy. But with St. Louis being an entertainment city, you also see a lot of pop-up shops and a lot of pop-up bars and events and things like that. So I was also doing a lot of managing of people's careers and events and things of that nature. So I would call these places thinking that I can just rent it out for a day or two. And they're like, no, 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 no. You need to sign a lease for at least 3 to 5 years. And you're going to pay us rent. And this is how this is going to go. So that was my first introduction into commercial real estate. Fast forward, moving to a town called Rolla, Missouri, I was able to work in a residential shop that did everything in one location. So residential, commercial, developments. If you needed any type of real estate done in that city, you were only going to one firm. There wasn't a CBRE or a JLL in the area. It's just this mom and pop shop, and that man ran 3 different cities, and he had the contracts with all of those cities experts. So I was able to see firsthand how someone was able to go from just being a student in the city to now managing and directing how the city grows within a college campus and a college neighborhood, as well as around military bases in those areas that aren't prominent at all with any type of person, but just being a lower rural area. After being there for about a year, I knew that I wanted to look into commercial, so I went into Cushman and Wakefield as an intern. Um, After some reading leases and learning how to understand those, went back into it. After selling a few apartment complexes and seeing what those commissions look like, I knew I needed to go back into commercial again. But staying in commercial real estate is really because of the flexibility that it provides me. I'm not tied down to a desk from 8 to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. I'm not tied down to having to report to anyone and micromanage some of the things that I'm doing and working with. But I'm also building, I hate the term generational wealth so much. I hate it. But essentially, that's what I'm doing. But I'm giving the people in my network, my family, my friends, the knowledge and understanding that there are other avenues to be successful. And it doesn't have to just be from going to school and getting a master's degree or being a teacher, doctor, lawyer, engineer. But there are other ways to be extremely impactful and still make a lot of money in the commercial real estate space. And also just being an advocate, because being at CBRE, there's not many people that look like me that are doing the role that I'm doing, be it male or female. And that's not just in Atlanta, that's across all 50 states. And we can even broaden that and go across the world. But just knowing that I am one of those minorities, just not because of the color of my skin, being in this business that's just going to keep providing me opportunities that wouldn't be provided if I didn't take the leap and jump into this field.
Maranda, what about you? Why did you get into commercial real estate?
Um, so like I said, I got into commercial real estate a long time ago in my early 20s, right out of grad school. And I'm not gonna tell y'all when, because then I'll be telling my age. But when before I went to grad school, I purchased my first piece of property at 21, my first investment property. So essentially, I purchased a house. This was back in the good old days where money was like really easy to access, right? So I purchased a house, I flipped it. I think I may have made $30,000 or $40,000 at 21. What? You could not tell me, okay? And I took that money and went back to school. So I went to the University of Georgia in Athens, paid my tuition, paid my rent for the year. And so when it came time to select a concentration for my MBA, naturally I said real estate because that's where my money had come from, right? I had no idea. When I signed up for real estate, I'm thinking, the same thing I just did, flipping houses or, although it's logical that there's a whole world of commercial real estate, as a 21-year-old girl coming out of Kansas, I just didn't have any idea. So when I did my concentration in real estate at UGA, a representative from CBRE came and he was like, listen, we're not trying to recruit anybody from UGA. I think at the time, the average student was coming out at like $90,000 or something like that. He was like, we're not paying you that. He was like, you can come in and maybe you can get one of these brokers to pay you 40 grand. But he was like, our average broker makes about 400,000. So there's an opportunity there. You can be short-sighted and get, $90,000 from Deloitte. That's who was hiring MBAs back then, Deloitte and Touche and Anderson and Ernst and Young. Or you could take a huge pay cut and maybe work for one of our brokers. But that's not how it works. There's not usually just, oh, let me go apply. No. What I had to do to get in CBRE is you have to get someone who's willing to invest in you. Commercial estate takes time for you to really understand all the concepts and be productive. So you're not going to really produce for at least a year, and people know that. So they know, dang, I got to invest in this person for a whole year. and they might get burnt out. They may not like it, or they could take my business and go elsewhere. So people really check and double check before they will actually bring you in on a salary if you come in making anything, unless you come in full commission. So what I did while I was in grad school is every single Friday, I would just show up at the CBRE office like, oh, I'm here offering my services. I'm an MBA student. Who needs help putting together a spreadsheet? Who needs help with this or that, this and that? I just showed up. I was very obnoxious and very annoying, I'm sure, because a lot of times I would show up and they would be like, who are you? We don't have anything. Yes, you do. I drove here from Athens and I'm going to be here till 5. So it is what it is. And so eventually I kind of connected with a lady in commercial real estate. This was back in like 2001. So it just wasn't hardly any women. There were hardly any people of color. And she was just like, we just kind of got along. Her name is Ray Uttenhold. She is a very high producing real estate woman. She's record breaking. I think at the time I was on her team consistently did over 5 million a year in commissions. So essentially I came onto her team and I think my salary might have been 45 grand or something like that. And I just started doing deals, and we got to the end of that year. I think she wrote me a check for like 60 grand. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, oh yeah, like I'm in the right place. Right. And then from there, it just grew. And eventually I was very fortunate in that I had a salary and I was able to sort of slowly go into full commission as I learned. A lot of times you won't get that opportunity. A lot of times you just got to jump out there and go full commission and do a side hustle or something like that. Jaymi, know what I'm talking about. Till you can actually be able to get paid from, before you're able to mind the business that pays you, right? So I would say the way in is probably the hardest, but let me tell you something. Once you get in this industry and you actually have this skill set, you will be in high demand. Let me just say that again. I was able to get into a certain level. Ever since 2005, I have always had job safety. At any moment, I could go back into commercial real estate. I could go to any major firm. I could go to any small firm because I have the skill set. So I could walk into CBRE tomorrow and be like, yo, I'm back. They would be like, here go your desk right here. I could go to Cushman. I could go to JLL. I could come over there with Jaymi and the crew at Dallas. So it is not the easiest industry to break into. You have to know someone or get to know someone. You have to get someone to invest in you. There is no, oh, I'm doing residential and I'm gonna occasionally do a commercial deal. That is very difficult. That is very difficult. You will have to jump in. Either you're in the circle or you're not. Literally, when I go and do deals, it's like, who's on the other side? Who is that? I don't know them. They're not in the circle. I don't want to do the deal because I know it's going to be a mess and da 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 da. That's how people do stuff. So if you really, really, really want to do it, be aggressive. And I would say that it is worth it. It is a skill that not a lot of people have, and it is definitely career security. Okay, I know y'all didn't ask me all that, but
No, that was good. That was good. That was good. So now, Miranda, you just mentioned, which is true, is you got to really know someone to get into the commercial real estate space. And then once you get into the certain asset classes, it's even smaller. Like you got commercial real estate, and then you have like the different sectors. You have retail, you have industrial, with multifamily, the hotels, and what are the other ones? Land, basically anything that's not residential.
yeah.
That's just anything that's not residential is commercial real estate. That's the best way. And the more and more, since I've gotten into this space, the more and more I realize that you can literally buy anything. You can buy an old fire station, you can buy an old church, you can buy a funeral home, you can buy a daycare, you can buy a bank, you can buy all of these different things, right? So why did you all choose the asset class that you're in, given all of the different asset classes? Jaymi, you can go.
Um, for me, like Miranda said, you have to know someone, but I am I'm one of those special people that I was able to get into commercial real estate not knowing anybody. So instead of me showing up to somebody's office on every Friday, Miranda, I was putting out applications everywhere. If I saw you had an opening, I was putting my application in. It don't matter if I was qualified or not. I did not have my degree. It said you needed a manager, I'm a manager. You said you needed an analyst, I'm an analyst. You said you need somebody to run a transaction, baby, I can run a transaction. I don't know what I'm doing, but I will figure it out because YouTube University is my friend and Google is my bestie. And so if I don't know the answer to it, I'm gonna Google it. But fortunately for me, at CBRE, because it is such a large organization, I had 11 brokers that were doing 7 different things, but all of them were in office or retail or industrial adjacent. So starting off in 2017, office is hot, everybody got to go to work, offices are booming. 2020 hits, nobody's going to work. But the one person that always is going to be in the office and needs to be in the office and is going to be in place is the doctor. Your physicians during that period where you could not do anything were the only individuals that were able to actually go into a facility and still see patients and still see people face to face. And knowing that, I'm in an office dominated industry where in Atlanta, things have to shift. And so I made the decision to shift with it and lean heavier on my medical brokers that were doing those transactions and learning from them and understanding those terms versus me just putting all of my eggs and keeping all of my eggs in the traditional office market and watching all of those spaces come up for sublease. And those subleases come up for termination, and then you haven't done a deal in 2, 3, 4 years. I was lucky enough having a mentor. He's still my mentor today, but we met at CBRE and he referred me over to DT Spade, which only primarily specializes in medical representation. And so being under that president and on his team, I was able to learn medical from the inside out. So I can tell you how to build out an ambulatory surgery center or a dentist space or an ankle and foot space. And, all, even though they're all physicians, they all need 3 totally different things. And there's going to be 3 totally different pieces of commercial real estate assets that we're going to be looking at. But just learning more about that and learning and understanding how doctors are able to practice in different areas and different capacities. They can have privileges at 2, 3, 4 different hospitals, but they also need an office in Buckhead, but then they also need another office to service their people in South Fulton. And that one practice can grow into 7, and 7 can grow into 30 as super quickly just because of the demand of the services that provider has. So knowing that a doctor has the potential to open up 15, 20, 30 practices across the city or across the state keeps me in the medical space, but I do still dabble in other areas of commercial. So I will work retail here and there. It's not my cup of tea, but I still do it, especially for the right person, the right organization. And I do have medical professionals that prefer to be in retail plazas. They prefer to be in retail spaces because of the niche that they're in and the demographics that they're targeting. I will do industrial here and there, but medical, it really is near and dear to me just because medical is needed and it's the real catalyst of how a community can grow. There's no room for that to be nurtured and for them to go to the doctor and to get the help that they need for diabetes or heart conditions or well woman exams, family planning, etc., then your community isn't going to be able to sustain without having the resources nearby. so that people can continue to live healthy everyday lives.
Oh yeah, you always gonna be busy in the medical profession.
Listen,
Always.
and all my doctors think, doctors think that they're smarter than us sometimes. And I have to just say, you have your degree in MD. I have mine in RE. Let me do that for
There
you.
we go. Come through,
Yes,
sis. Come through,
yes.
sis. Now, Miranda, now why did you choose retail over the other asset classes?
Um, yeah, I when I had to choose, I think my choice was between, because like I said, I was at CBRE and had been just kind of showing up on people's teams. So I essentially got opportunities from, I think it was a multifamily investment and office investment were the two. So, you have office leasing, and then you have office investment. And office investment is where they actually sell the entire building or sell it to investors. So, retail, I really liked the woman running the retail team. The other two were run by older white men, right? Which is cool because this is the industry you're in, and the majority of people are in that demographic. But this I felt like I had a better opportunity with the retail team lead. We just kind of connected. So mine was person driven. But once I've really gotten into the industry, it also it grows and contracts, but it's always growing. Really, it just depends on what cycle you're in, what is growing. So if the market is taking a downturn, then Dollar General, Family Dollar, Dollar Tree, convenience stores, those are all growing, right?
Mhm.
You'll get in a cycle like with COVID, and it was a lot of medical, so the CVS's and the Walgreens were growing.
Now, before we open it up for Q&A to everybody, how hard is it? And we alluded on it a little bit, but how hard is it being not only being a woman in commercial real estate, but how hard is it being a Black woman in commercial real estate?
Ooh, being a woman in commercial real estate has its perks because everybody, when you walk into a room, everybody assumes and thinks that you're just the assistant to somebody and they just needed a face to show up, or you're in some other field, or or you're not even part of the commercial space, you're just part of the building or the develop or something else. They never assume that you're the broker until you say, no, I am the broker and this is what I do and this is who I represent. um Black women in commercial real estate, it's even harder because they also think those things of you. But not only that, they also don't think that you're able and capable to do some of the transactions that they're, wanting to do, or people assume whatever they want to assume. There are also a lack of resources for women in the industry because this is a white male dominated industry. A lot of the individuals in this industry, especially in Atlanta, it's rooted in nepotism. And so everybody is a cousin, brother, uncle, stepfather, friend, best friend to somebody else who is the top dog at wherever in whatever role. And so those opportunities have come a lot easier for them, even down to just the school that you've gone to. So Atlanta
Yeah.
is a UGA city. It's either UGA or Georgia Tech. Now we're getting into the Georgia States.
Hello, Panthers. Thank
Hi,
you.
Panthers. Shameless plug, real quick. We'll be at Georgia World Congress for the real estate, some real estate stuff later next week on April 4th. If you haven't paid attention to our Instagram or our LinkedIn.
Wait, what's the group? Who?
So the real estate group, I think I'm butchering it just a little bit, but there will be an all school opportunity for all of the colleges and universities within the city of Atlanta and outside of the city skirts of Atlanta. So Kennesaw State, Morehouse, AUC, Georgia State, Georgia Tech. Everybody is invited. All students are invited. It's free to register, but it is a real estate convention that students will be able to learn about commercial real estate, how to get into commercial real estate. They'll get to have conversations with some heavy hitters. There'll be conversations. There's a keynote speaker with Mr. Michael Ford, who is the head of real estate for AT&T. There'll be some table discussions. It's going to be a great day. It's a full day, 9 to 5. It's just a shameless plug. I'll drop the link for registration in the chat before we leave today for everyone, but would love to see you all there. But back to the question, socioeconomic norms are also an issue for being a woman in CRE. We're not privy to what goes on behind the scenes because we weren't there at the table when it was birthed. And unless we have dad or mom who was at the table, we're not going to get handed the same spoons unless we're going in those lower roles as being the assistant or being the finance person, anything that's not forward facing until they need someone that's forward facing. And sometimes you just have to be willing to be the token. Not necessarily the token Black person, but just sometimes the token woman. I will listen. I will sit back and be seen and not heard sometimes. But after a certain point, you need to know exactly who I am and what I do, and that I am just as knowledgeable and can handle whatever you have as much as the other person the man that's sitting next to me. So knowing that this is a male-dominated industry, you have to be 2 steps ahead of them at all times. If they don't know the answer to the question, then you should. And if you don't know it, then you should be looking it up while they're teetering and figuring it out so that you can come with that answer. And just making sure that you are a resource, because we as individuals have to be resources for other individuals and be holding each other accountable. Hey, can I call and ask you questions? Hey, I'm having trouble here or there. But us needing and not having a good resource base is one of the hardest things for women in commercial real estate, because who are we going to call and talk to when we're having issues with the man that wants to overtalk and use bad language and call you out your name and darling and sweetheart really grind my gears. And so, just knowing that there needs to be someone somewhere that's advocating for us in these rooms, that is the hardest thing.
Maranda, what about you? What makes it hard for Black women in commercial real estate, in your opinion?
It is very, very challenging, but as I become more seasoned, I realize that the skill set you pick up over here, like you have great listening skills. You have learned how to use your Blackness and femininity to your advantage. Okay. So it's like, yeah, there's some disadvantages, but baby, like they don't trust nobody else, they trust me. Right. And so, there's all these really negative images of Black women and, oh my gosh, they see us this way, they see us that way. So there's always like this subliminal programming that goes along with Black women. Well, guess what? There's subliminal programming that goes along with Black women that's to our advantage as well, right? We are the people who were entrusted with people's treasures, their home, their children, everything that was valuable to them. They felt like they could put it in the hands of a Black woman. So you have to use that to your advantage. You have to recognize that. You have to speak to that language. So if your grandmother left her baby with me, then you can leave me your office building, baby, because I'm going to take care of it. And everything in your subconscious believes me. You understand what I'm saying? So I've been able to leverage that not only with the American psyche, but then when I deal with a lot of my Middle Eastern clients, they can also relate to the brown skin. They can relate to, culture, and a lot of times is very similar. It's very family oriented. It's very nurturing. So your weakness can also be your superpower. It really depends on how you look at it and how you frame it, and then how you frame it in the minds of other people. And so that's one thing. I'm always very honest. I'm always very unarming. People feel like they can let their guard down. Because at the end of the day, really, we are those women. We are those people. We are those people who you can trust. Genuinely, we're pretty straightforward. You understand what I'm saying? I just remind people of that. Like, hey, you can do it with me or you can do it with Bob, because Bob will cut your throat. So it's your choice. And 9 times out of 10, they like, you're right. I'm gonna roll with you because I feel like I can talk to you. I feel like you're listening to me. I feel like you're here for me. And unfortunately, a lot of times we're seen as being self-sacrificing. So they feel like, hey, this sister will throw herself on the sword for me. And I speak to that language. And I would encourage you guys to do that, not just in commercial real estate, but all of your business ventures. Baby, we got a superpower, okay? And I would tell you to leverage it as much as possible.
Now, we had a question. It was for you, Jaymi, in regards to the generational wealth comment that you made. Where did it go? I just did it. It was asking you to elaborate more on your generational wealth, I guess because people use it a lot. Can you elaborate? No, here it says, Jaymi, can you elaborate on your thoughts regarding the term generational wealth and briefly unpack your thoughts surrounding it?
Absolutely. Generational wealth, excuse me, can and likely will be lost after your first or second generation, depending on what type of wealth you've built. It takes time to build generational wealth. It doesn't just happen overnight. And we see, I've recently been reading a book called What Would the Rockefellers Do? And in that book, it tells us and speaks to us about how the Vanderbilts versus the Rockefellers built their empire, and how quickly the Vanderbilts lost everything because of the generational wealth, and there not being proper procedures and things in place for them to keep that wealth. And so, they lost it after the third or fourth go round, but they have all of these things in their names. They did so much for the schools and the streets and the homes, but there's no ownership. Though that family no longer has ownership of any of those things. They only have the name. But the Rockefellers, they have trusts. They have wills. They have to meet certain requirements for them to be able to take money out of this trust that they've been left, and to do certain things. And if somebody does this, that's it. They're cut off or they're lessened. But they have what I like to call economic growth and leadership practices in place that have allowed them to stay successful and to stay relevant and to continue to grow, not just as a family, but also to grow that generational wealth to what it is now 100 plus years later. So we don't really need to consider and just talk about the generational wealth. We need to talk about the actual personal growth and economic growth that's going to allow for the next round of individuals to actually succeed and keep that wealth going. It doesn't just need to be generational wealth. It really needs to be a legacy. What legacy are you leaving? Not just generationally, but for the entire world, because people don't remember you when you die for cooking the best brownies and being a great speaker. When they look at that, your obituary, it's going to say Jaymi Brooks, philanthropist, Then it's going to go into she was this person, she was a family member, she was an aunt, she was a cousin, she was a sister. Your accolades are going to go first, and then how everything else will follow after that. And just being able to build on your own personal economic growth will sustain you for the rest of the generations if you choose, because some people choose not to create a new generation. So then what happens to your wealth once you pass but you have no children? Who's getting that? That's a new conversation. And so now, is all of that just going back to charity, or is that going to an aunt or uncle? So you can't claim that those people are creating generational wealth when they have no generations to pass it on to.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, I like to focus on, like you said, the generational wealth. I really like to focus on retaining wealth, as to your point, right? Uh, like things were left down to, family members, but their grandparents worked so hard to get it, but they didn't explain to them how to keep it, keep paying the taxes on it, insurance, there's no mortgage on it, maybe you can pull equity out of this house so you can start, and a lot of that information, wasn't passed down to us. And including myself, like I didn't really know anything. Everybody in my family, I grew up owned a home, so it wasn't like, oh, I want to own a home one day. It was just, to my opinion, it was all normal, but it wasn't taught, Well, basically what my grandma said, I guess this was her way of generational wealth, was I don't want to see my name on that you owe taxes. So that was like her thing. Like, after she died, she'll talk about the grandkids who had the names, because my grandma in the country, so they don't, they put it on the wall when you walk in, who owe taxes, who owe property taxes. And so my grandma was like, "Ooh, my name, my house better than that." So that was her way of generational wealth, was to keep keep the taxes paid. But anyway, um, thank you, ladies. Do we have any more questions for these wonderful ladies? We make sure you drop the link to the real estate event in April. I just asked. So I hope did you all enjoy this conversation today, ladies? Was it good? Y'all enjoyed it?
Absolutely. This was
Yeah.
great.
We had fun tonight. So tonight is the final night. So I appreciate you all so much for rocking with me for this past week, these past 3 days. It's my first time doing something like this in a long time. It's actually my first time doing something like this in this format. Thank you, Jaymi, for coming in. I appreciate you, girl. I'll be calling you, girl. I'll be hitting you up for some more stuff now. Maranda, I appreciate you so much. So I mean, this has just been a great conversation. Jaymi put the link in the chat. A great conversation. Let me put it just in case somebody didn't get it. Just a great conversation, just getting into the commercial real estate. Now y'all see why, I'm a big proponent of getting more women, specifically Black women in commercial real estate, because, we always talking about buying the block, but nobody really talks about what that means. Everybody keep talking about businesses and owning a business, which is great, at least not a business. But my thing is, why don't you just own the building, right? Because somebody could sell that building and you put so much money into that build out because you didn't own it, right? So, and that's pretty much what they were, talking about, and how you can. I would say the link didn't work. It worked for me. Yeah, I just put the link in. I'll do it again. I just clicked on it and it just worked. I put it in again. Yeah, it worked for me, so I just put it in. But anyway, thank you all again so much for tuning in. I'll be sending the replay out. You all should have gotten. Have y'all been getting the emails about the replay? Because some folks said they didn't get it, so everybody should be getting the link for the replay. Okay, great. Yes, there will be a replay. Yeah, you should have got one. That's so weird. Anyway, I'll send it out with probably all three links. Folks have been asking about education, who want to, I provide education as well for those who want to invest, those who want to learn more, those who want to buy a hotel. So you'll definitely be getting that information so you can be more in tune. Thank you for signing up. You will be added to the mailing list. So if you see any upcoming investment opportunities, you'll receive that information as well as any upcoming events that I may have. So I appreciate you all so much. Again, thank you, Jaymi. Thank you, Maranda. And you all have a wonderful evening. Thank you for rocking with me for this past week. And happy Women's History Month to everyone. Thank you all so
Thank
much.
you.
Bye, everybody.
Y'all have a good one.
Have a good
Bye-bye.
night.
Good night.